All right, we've been hyping up the Combine buzz. Full disclaimer, these are rumors, not news. There's a difference. Rumors and news are different. Drunken Indy Steakhouse gossip
1,000%
is yes.
Sign almost.
The great part about the Indianapolis Combine, or the Combine, is that basically you're out of the new year hasn't started. The old year is done. It's the only time in the entire year, calendar year, that everyone in the NFL, players, agents, scouts, general managers, front office people, coaches, media, are all in the same place at the same time. And you're in Indianapolis, and you're basically on the same 1 mile radius in Indianapolis. And so there's like 3 bars that everyone goes to. And so you just run into a ton of people, and you're having drinks, you're shooting the breeze, and so whatever, just, and what everyone has in common is football. So you're all just talking ball, and what have you heard? And so I always say, like, listen, I'm not a journalist, but what have you heard? And so these are rumors. This is gossip. None of this is news that I'm reporting. I am not Mike Florio. I am not Adam Schefter. I am not Jay Glazer. I am not a quote unquote news breaker for a major media company. I'm a fantasy and sports betting guy, and these are rumors. So with that, let's talk about some of the rumors I heard. And this one actually, I can report because this is all on the record. I interviewed Ron Rivera. I had the definitive Ron Rivera interview, which I think is up on the NFL
on NBC YouTube channel. You can watch the full thing.
Check the full thing. But what I asked him was specifically about Eric Bieniemy, because Eric Bieniemy has become the offensive coordinator and assistant head coach in the time since we did our last show. And what he said is what he was impressive to him was just how explosive the Chiefs' offense was. Helps when you have, Mahomes and Kelsey. Like, are they coming with? Apparently not. But I think to Ron's point of view, what Ron was excited about was just how much they spread the ball around, how much they were able to get guys in space, the Chiefs were, and that was really impressive. The other thing is what he said to me, which I thought was an underreported fact, is that Ron said, Ron knows Andy Reid. Like they coached on the same staff together many, many years ago, and so they know Andy, and he says, listen, I've hired 2 coaches from Andy Reid in my life. The first one was Sean McDermott. I called Andy about Sean McDermott and hired him to be my defensive coordinator in Carolina. Obviously, that worked out really well for me. So this is the second coach I've ever hired from Andy, and I called Andy about Eric, and Andy could not have been more praiseworthy and said he's great and he's amazing. And so, Andy didn't steer me wrong on McDermott. I don't think he steered me wrong on Bieniemy. And so I think what we will expect for the Commanders' offense under Bieniemy, and quarterback is still a question mark, but I think you'll see the running backs involved much more in the passing game. We saw Brian Robinson start to get a little bit more involved towards the end of last year. Obviously, they have Antonio Gibson as well. They like that. Also, the tight end. Ron Rivera mentioned that he thinks he can get another year out of Logan Thomas. He also really likes Cole Turner. Obviously, neither guy is Travis Kelce. But the usage of the tight end in Bieniemy's offense is something that was important to Ron. And obviously having playmakers in McLaurin, Dotson, and Curtis Samuel, he thought, given all the pieces, that Bieniemy could get them in space, create mismatches, and really kind of be aggressive on offense. So that's what I think Ron Rivera is expecting from an Eric Bieniemy offense this year.
Staying with the trend of team offenses, obviously the Broncos made the huge trade for their new head coach in Sean Payton. What do you expect there in an interesting situation with Russ, some buzz around maybe their wide receivers on the trade market, and, of course, Javonte Williams' timeline?
So, again, all gossip. But I have a pretty good Bronco. Well, I'll just say this. The source that I got some of my Broncos stuff for has given me Bronco stuff before, and that has always been pretty rock solid. So, but again, this is all speculation, rumors, gossip. None of this is proved. But one of the things is that, and this came up a couple of different times, is that people get the sense that Sean Payton doesn't like Russell Wilson. And
that seems like a problem.
Right, it really does. And the reason they're basing that on is there's some behind-the-scenes stuff, but also just because that at 2 different public press conferences, Payton has made the same joke, and I'm using joke in quotes for people that are just listening to the audio of this, where he just basically said, like, oh, yeah, Russ keeps really bugging Drew Brees. Keeps, talking his ear off and asking him all these questions. And the fact that he keeps bringing that up, they live near each other in the offseason. Russell Wilson and Drew Brees apparently both have a home in Southern California, and they live near each other, I guess, in the same neighborhood or something like that. And so the fact that he's mentioned this multiple times, again, reading the tea leaves feels like that Drew Brees has probably called Sean Payton and said, like, dude, get your guy off me. Like, it's not my job to explain your offense to your new quarterback. And again, I'm speculating. This is all reading between the lines. I want to be very clear here. But it was brought up to me by more than one person that Payton has made that joke publicly, in front of cameras and microphones, and he feels like that's a little pointed. That, Russ keeps rugging Drew Brees, and
don't stop.
But what was definitely clear that I heard from multiple people is that in essence Russell Wilson's on a 1-year tryout with Sean Payton. They're like, okay, it didn't work last year with Hackett. We're bringing in Sean Payton. And, so, okay, Russ, we've given you a bunch of weapons. We've given you a great head coach, a Hall of Fame head coach whenever he hangs it up, a great offensive mind. And so that you've got 1 year. And that what happens if at the end of 1 year, they can get out of this deal. The cap hit would still be bad. They'd split over 2 years. It would still be a very bad cap hit. I want to say like something like $40 million a year over 2 years, but not a franchise crippling cap hit, which is what it would be if they released him this year. So that was how it was explained to me, was that in essence it's kind of like a 1-year trial. He's got 1 year to turn it around. If he does, great. They've got their franchise quarterback. They've got what they traded for. But if not, like if there's only one guy left standing, it's going to be Payton, not Russ.
Yep.
That's how it was explained to me.
Yep. And we've talked about it. I'm buying Russell Wilson stock.
I agree.
I think he's going to be better next year. I think he'll be the same kind of tier, maybe a little bit better even than Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones. He's got more upside than those guys.
The question is, who will he be doing that with?
Right.
We've heard a lot of rumors about their wide receiver, both of Judy and Courtland Sutton, but definitely Sutton.
I think they like Judy, and they like how he ended the season, especially. I've heard that quietly Courtland Sutton's on the trading block. Like, they're not actively shopping him, but they're definitely like, hey, you like Court? Like, I think if they got a decent offer for Courtland Sutton, they would move him as well. And it was explained to me that for our purposes, in terms of fantasy, that after Judy, Tim Patrick's actually who you're going to want on the Broncos offense next year. That they expect Sutton some way, somehow to potentially move on. So we'll see what happens there. To me, the biggest thing that was interesting was Javonte Williams. And I was told that basically he's a lot more hurt than they're letting on. That's the rumor, is that he's a lot more hurt than they're letting on, and that publicly they're saying all the right things. And there's a chance, but it's really clouded in mystery, and that it was a very serious injury that Javonte Williams suffered, and that there's just this massive range of potential outcomes for Javonte Williams off of this injury. He could be ready for opening day. He could come back midseason. He could miss the entire year. Like, that's how it was explained to me. Like, it's all over the place. Like, there's a lot of different things, but they are secretly, what I was told, is that the Broncos are secretly very nervous about the health of Javonte Williams heading into next year. That they don't know if they're going to have them, if they're going to have him, and if they do have him, how long they'll have him for. And so you've seen some stuff out there publicly that they've been tied to Kareem Hunt. And how it's explained to me is, like, they're going to bring in a veteran. Like, they'll bring back Latavius Murray. They're probably going to move on from Mike Boone. So they'll bring in a veteran, but kind of the level of veteran that they bring in will sort of be a hint as to how they feel about it. And they said, like, Kareem Hunt is somebody that they're really interested in. And, like, you don't bring in Kareem Hunt just to be running back depth.
Yep.
And so they said if Kareem Hunt goes there, and that's one person that's mentioned as a target for Broncos, that should be a heads up that, like, Williams is more injured than you may potentially think. And so the idea is that, as it was explained to me, Latavius Murray is going to be the Mark Ingram in the Sean Payton role, and then we just don't know yet who's going to be the Alvin Kamara. Maybe it's Javonte Williams if he's healthy, but maybe it's Kareem Hunt. I also heard David Montgomery is potential. That's a potential landing spot for him if the Bears do end up moving on from Montgomery. But yeah, the Broncos offense very much in flux, I think, more than people might think.
Another offense in the AFC that hopes their star quarterback gets back to top form would be the Browns with Deshaun Watson. He came back from the suspension last year, never quite looked to be himself. What are you hearing about the passing offense in Cleveland?
Just very simply, and it makes sense, we always talk about follow the money, right? That this is going to be Deshaun Watson's offense next year, not Nick Chubb's. And it was explained to me, they said, you know what, look at the Browns-Steelers game from last year, which was week 18. So it was like in the 30s. Like, it was freezing cold, really windy. Like, okay, Browns, Steelers. Steelers were still alive for the playoffs at that point. So this is going to be one of those, AFC North, typical, two teams that don't like each other, bad weather, cold. It's just going to be grinding out like a 12-10 type game. He said if you go back, and that's a game in which if ever there was a game where they should have gone to Pittsburgh and just run Nick Chubb 25 times or run the ball 25 times, that was that game. And yet what they did is Nick Chubb got 12 carries in that game, and Deshaun Watson threw it 29 times. And they're like, that's the offense they want to run. Again, and that was in a game, listen, the Browns were also down in that game. Kareem Hunt got 4 carries, so ultimately 16 rushing attempts. But still, the fact of the matter is they said, this is going to be, you're going to see some 5 wide. You're going to see them be really much more pass happy. You don't pay $250 million to a quarterback to hand off. This will be Deshaun Watson's offense, and that's what they want. They want to be pass first, maybe 12 touches, 12 carries for Nick Chubb, and they will add a speed receiver. That's one of their priorities. They like Donovan Peoples-Jones, but they want a true speed receiver opposite Amari Cooper. Again, to sort of give Watson what he had in Houston when he had Hopkins and Fuller.
Yep. I think Hopkins he's the highest variance player in the NFL next season. If he's the guy that he was in Houston, where he's like the 4th best quarterback in the league. Deshaun Watson. So I think that if he is that guy again, then the Browns can win the Super Bowl. If they've got the top 5 quarterback in the NFL, then all of a sudden they've got so much talent around him. The defense should be better. I don't understand really why the defense wasn't better last season, but they've got a ton of talent there. They've still got top 2 offensive line in football, maybe just behind Philadelphia. So they're loaded if he is the guy.
But I just think, we don't really think of Cleveland as a place that you want to go for fantasy-friendly players. But, Njoku had a really nice season. Amari Cooper had a better season than we thought with, different quarterback play. So if we assume, it's a big assumption, but if we assume Deshaun Watson is back to being Deshaun Watson in a pass-happy offense, Cleveland especially, and they add somebody opposite Amari Cooper, Cleveland suddenly becomes very interesting. And if they are going that pass-happy, even if Chubb's only getting 12 touches, Nick Chubb's one of, if not the best pure running back in the NFL. If he's getting 12 touches against what should be very light boxes because they are pass happy and because they're stretching the field, that becomes pretty interesting as well for Nick Chubb.
I would suspect as well that the back complementing Chubb is probably not going to get as much of a workload as Kareem Hunt got at times. And so even just in terms of percentage share, so even if Chubb is getting less carries, he might still have, more opportunities.
By the way, for people that are doing best ball drafts right now, Jerome Ford is a name that was mentioned to me as well, that's going to be Nick Chubb's backup, not Dearness Johnson. They will move on from Kareem Hunt, and it won't be Dearness Johnson. I think a lot of people assumed it would be Johnson based on what we've seen, but no, they really like Jerome Ford, and he's going to be, expect him to be the Nick Chubb insurance back that you want, or the other Cleveland running back you want in a deeper league.
How about the Bills' weapons next year? They used the second-round pick on James Cook. You'd think that they would expand his role going into next year. And then Gabe Davis didn't have the year we had all hoped for, but is there something behind the scenes there to that season?
Yeah, so these are, some of the stuff that I've talked about, everything that I've talked about so far has been mostly rumors that you just sort of hear late at night from people, after a few drinks, and, we'll see if they end up coming true or not. But these are ones, in terms of James Cook and Gabe Davis, both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott spoke to the press, on the record in front of microphones. And I asked, they were asked about James Cook. And so both Beane and McDermott were very effusive about Cook, and basically we expect more from them. Now, they're also a team that has been tied to Bijan Robinson as well. So we'll see what they do in the draft and free agency. But I think, based on what they saw to James Cook towards the end of last year, the expectation is that he'll be the lead running back. He'll be the Bills running back you want. By the way, completely random fact that I saw on Twitter the other day. Did you know this? That James Cook's middle name is Dalvin.
Yeah.
I did not know
Dalvin's
this.
middle name is James.
Very crazy.
So it's Dalvin James Cook and James Dalvin Cook.
I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. That was one that I saw on Twitter, and you're like, so kind of amazing there. In terms of Gabe Davis, I went to those press conferences. I directly asked both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott in separate press conferences, hey, coming into this year, especially after that Kansas City playoff game, I think expectations were really high for Gabriel Davis. How do you assess his year last season, and what do you think about him going into this year, just to see what they would take it? What I didn't say is, oh, by the way, he was like a guy that I really loved for Fantasy Sleeper, and he made me look like a moron, and I loved Gabe Davis, and what are we gonna do? I left that part out. But they both sort of said the same thing, and I'm paraphrasing here. If you go to my column on rotoworld.com, I have the exact quote. that I transcribed. But off the top of my head, it was something to the effect of just basically like, yeah, listen, he started off, he struggled earlier in the season. He had the high ankle sprain, but, he worked through that adversity, and I think he finished the season strong, and we're excited about it. He's a great kid. He works, he works his tail off. He's always practicing. When we drafted him, he was actually out running routes. So just knowing him and the type of kid he is, we know he's going to, come back even stronger, and being able to get through that adversity leads him. So it was just, a little bit of coach speak, and we like the kid, and we expect better things. Okay, fine. But the thing that was interesting is that both guys, both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, sort of offhandedly mentioned, blah, blah, and he had the high ankle sprain early in the season. And I'm like, whoa. Was that public?
Yeah.
So I went back, I turned on the old Google machine, and everything I saw, and maybe you guys saw something that I didn't, but everything I saw was like ankle injury. He's got an ankle injury. He might miss this game.
Different.
High ankle is different, especially for a speed wide receiver. High ankle is very different than he's got an ankle sprain. He injured the ankle in practice. He's going to be limited today. He might not play. And so I don't know. That was like, okay. I feel like if we knew he had a high ankle sprain, which typically lasts like 4 to 6 weeks, you might view his season differently.
So you're telling me we're back in on Gabe Davis?
We're back in on Gabe Davis.
We're back on the track.
I don't know.
Thought we were
Lord
done
help me. I thought we were done.
Yeah.
Just when I think I'm done, they reel me back in. Damn it. I'm back in on Gabe Davis.
One last one here. The Chiefs wide receiver room could look a lot different. Juju's a free agent. Mecole Hardman's a free agent. I mean, are they going to go back out to that external market that they attacked last year? What is this room going to look like over summer?
I don't think they know. We've talked about this because the free agent class is so weak and the draft class is so weak for wide receivers. You could see Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, get offers that Kansas City's just like,
we can't go.
No, thanks. We can't go there. So the only guys that we're expecting, Justin Watson's also a free agent as well. So Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore are both under contract. You see it there on your screen. They have MVS as well, I suppose. But the fact of the matter is that I think you're going to see, it'll be Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. Both guys should have significantly increased roles next year. And if I had to pick one, Kadarius Toney. I was talking to sources. They like both kids. They like them a lot. But in terms of what Kadarius Toney can do, just his ability, his Swiss Army knife-like ability and his versatility, just a full season in the Chiefs system, a full offseason where they can sort of play and experiment and try different things. They're very excited about Kadarius Toney in Kansas City. Yeah. And they love both kids, by the way, talking to different coaches. Both kids they think are really great. They've also a team that have been mentioned to me as a potential landing spot for Allen Lazard.
Yep. I like the corrected full season of Kadarius Toney. He doesn't play full seasons, Matthew. But if he does, he's got as much talent as anyone and a ton of upside.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.